Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed at 1,000 subscribers. I'll be posting a special video. I turned the spare room handle and pushed. She'd snapped, a knee hit the frame, a gasp. Two bodies scrambled into angles that did not fit. My chest tightened so fast I tasted metal. I'm Daniel, 46. I did not blink, I counted breaths instead. Her hand clutched the blanket, his belt hung loose. Every second felt like a fuse hissing. Stop moving, my voice came out steady. She froze with her back against the wall. He stared at the floor like it might open. I stepped in and closed the door behind me. No one reached for clothes, that told me enough. A wine glass rocked on the desk and settled. The window was cracked for air and secrecy. I locked the door and pocketed the key. Look at me, I waited and kept counting. She lifted her chin as if pulled by wire. He rubbed his wrist and wouldn't meet my eyes. My patience snapped like a thin twig. How long? I didn't raise my voice. She opened her mouth and closed it again. He swallowed and nodded once like a coward. That nod dragged the ground out from under me. Use words, I stepped closer and held the line. Her eyes searched my face for softness and found none. His lips trembled with a confession he feared. I braced for impact I could not avoid. Since last month, he barely pushed the sound out. Her shoulders went rigid and then slumped. A lie tried to form and died. I set my jaw and catalogued each clue. The room heat mattered because it forced choices. Sweat ran and made the sheet slip, she grabbed harder. He shifted like a boxer who already lost. I moved the chair and blocked the path. Tell me the exact nights, I pointed at him. He lifted 2 fingers, then 3, then stopped. She flinched at the numbers like stones. I counted again and felt something tear. You waited until I left for work. He nodded once with his throat tight. She kept breathing in short stabs that hurt. I kept the distance so I wouldn't swing. I needed proof that lives outside excuses. My phone buzzed and I let it buzz. The cloud sync icon had burned me before. I knew the backups would speak without shame. He tried to step closer for pity. I raised my hand and he froze mid-stride. Not one step, my palm held his gravity. Silence stretched until it threatened to snap. She reached for my wrist and stopped mid-reach. Don't, I watched her fingers fall like defeated soldiers. Every muscle wanted to run or break things. I stood still because stillness hurts worse. Was it planned or a stumble? I needed angles. He dragged a breath and shook his head. Her eyes closed as if erasing frames. I caught the pattern and saw there was rhythm. Last question for now, I steadied my breath. Did you use my house as cover? He broke then, his hands went to his face. That answer came out as a raw yes. I felt the floor tilt and then hold. I picked up his shirt and tossed it hard. Dress, both of you, the words hit like cuffs. Then sit and don't touch anything. They moved with jerks and frantic snaps. Buttons fumbled and fell silent after clicks. I stood by the door like a guard. This was the last minute of the old life. We sat at the table that keeps score. I placed my phone in the center like evidence. I typed a code and opened the shared gallery. Thumbnails marched in dates I could not deny. I turned the screen and watched their faces fold. Her mouth formed a no that never landed. He looked smaller than the boy I raised. The full weight shifted onto my spine. Here is what happens next, my voice leveled. You listen, you do not argue, you comply. Their eyes flicked to the exit like trapped animals. I had already planned that exit for them. I slid the key onto my side of the table. I will confirm the rest in writing tonight. Until then, you stay where I can see you. The room held its breath and waited to explode. I stood, the chair legs scraped and announced war. Neither of them blinked as I reached the doorway. The hallway felt narrow like a loaded corridor. I walked to gather proof that ends arguments. Behind me came a whisper that tried to beg. My feet kept moving because I know my limits. I would not decide anything without cold records. The decision would land before sunrise. I unlocked my phone and opened the shared archive. Thumbs moved fast, I knew where the gaps hide. A thread surfaced with nicknames I did not recognize. The latest pinged 10 minutes ago and waited like bait. I tapped the thread and scrolled in short bursts. Screenshots of ride receipts lined up in neat rows. Pickups matched nights I logged extra hours. Drop-offs pinned our driveway with smug accuracy. I switched to bank alerts and sorted by vendor. A pattern formed without effort or mercy. 2 quick charges at a pharmacy stood out. One note read emergency package and the date flashed red. Footsteps approached the hallway and paused outside. I killed the screen and held still near the frame. "Are you coming back?" floated through the woe. Odd like smoke. I slid the bolt and the steps retreated down the hall. Back to the gallery, I searched by faces. The system built an album I never made. His smile appeared next to her grin again. One video thumbnail carried today's timestamp like a brand. I braced and tapped because I needed final weight. Audio filled my ear with rushed whispers and nerves. Her voice asked if he locked the door. His answer came with a laugh I used to know. I sent the clip to my private folder and exhaled slowly. No tears, my head needed angles, not fog. I created a new note named Immediate Steps. Only verbs, no wishes, no maybe. The list wrote itself while my pulse hammered. Call locksmith at first light with no delay. Buy temporary storage and pack essentials fast. Draft separation terms and deliver with a witness. The door rattled again and held under the latch. "Please talk to me" came softer than before. I kept quiet because silence forced structure. I wasn't ready for their sway or chaos. I texted my sister one line with a location. No details, she trusts my judgment without ceremony. Her reply came fast with a single word. "On my way," and the world steadied a notch. I grabbed a folder from the desk and returned to the table. They looked up like students waiting for grades. I placed the phone down and hit play. The short clip ran and the room shrank to knives. Her hands flew to her mouth and then dropped. He pushed his chair back and caught it with shaking arms. "Stop it," he blurted, voice brittle and thin. I let the clip finish because endings matter. "Answer only when I ask," I kept my tone level. Was there protection every time I held his stare? He flinched hard and glanced sideways for cover. That glance wrote the truth without a syllable. I turned to her and pointed at the receipts. 2 pharmacy stops and a note about urgency. She nodded once, then twice, with eyes fixed low. My ribs tightened and the next question formed. "Are you worried about consequences? I need to know." A pause held for 3 beats in the stale air. She whispered almost nothing and then forced it out. "Late by 9 days and I'm scared." My vision narrowed to a clear corridor of tasks. "Doctor appointment at 9 sharp or we go now." He reached for her hand and I raised my palm. No touching in my house and no whispers. I opened the door and jerked my chin toward the hall. "We ride together and we return as 3. After that you both pack and you both leave." Their shoulders sagged and I welcomed the weight. He started to protest and I lifted the phone. Another tap displayed the face album like a courtroom. "Do not test me again," I warned with steel. Silence grew teeth and finally did its job. Shoes on, keys pocketed, gate unlocked with a crisp snap. We moved out to the car without ceremony or noise. I drove because control kept me from breaking. Morning would bring truth that cuts deeper than confessions. I parked hard and killed the engine. Phones in the glove box, I held out my hand. They hesitated, then placed them one by one. Control first, mercy later, if later exists. We walked inside and took numbers. A nurse glanced up at the 3 of us. "Urgent check," I said, voice even and clipped. "We'll wait, but not long." Chairs scraped, he sat on the far edge. She kept her arms folded and stared at the floor. I stared at the door to the back corridor. Movement there meant answers or escalation. Her number flashed on the screen and she stood. I rose with her and nodded at him. "You stay put," I said, steady and cold. He sank back and pressed his palms together. A second nurse blocked me with a practiced shoulder. "Only patient," she said, "no room for debate." I leaned close enough to keep my tone private. "I need confirmation on timing, today matters." She held my gaze and read the situation. "Consent form or no updates," she answered, calm, professional. I looked at her, then at the closed door. Fine, process first, confrontation next. The door swallowed her and the hallway quieted. I paced once and forced myself to stop. He cleared his throat but did not stand. Not a word, I warned, eyes fixed ahead. Minutes stretched, thin, brittle, dangerous. I counted ceiling tiles and thought about locks. I pictured boxes stacked by category and exit route. Readiness kept the grief from flooding. My phone buzzed in my pocket twice. Work messages, I ignored both without guilt. Every choice today writes tomorrow in ink. I chose immediate lines and clean cuts. Her door opened and a tech called his number. He looked at me for permission he no longer earned. Go, I said, and he went with rigid steps. One test for health, one for truth. She reappeared with a clipboard and trembling lips. We need blood and urine, the nurse explained. Preliminary results today, follow-ups tomorrow. I signed where she pointed and kept my jaw locked. We moved to a small consult area. She kept glancing at my hands like they might shake. They didn't, the shaking ended last night. Only decisions now, only forward. Do you want to be here for results? The nurse waited, eyes level and steady. Yes, I answered because distance invites spin. No messages delivered through anyone else. He finished first and returned with damp eyes. He tried to sit beside her and paused mid-step. I put a chair between them without raising my voice. Separate seats until we're done. A physician entered with printouts and a guarded face. Rapid screenings negative, she began, measured, clinical, careful. Pregnancy test is inconclusive this early. Blood work will narrow the window by morning. Her breath hitched and she pinched her knuckles white. He stared at the floor and bit his lip. I leaned in just enough to reclaim the center. What now exactly? Follow up at 9, the physician answered without blinking. No contact, no intercourse, no more uncertainty. Her gaze shifted between us like a metronome. Do you all understand? Yes, my answer landed first and last. They murmured something smaller and let it trail. The physician nodded and stepped out with the forms. The door clicked like a timer. I stood and pointed to the exit. We go home, we pack, we split. No scenes, no pleading, no side deals. My voice left no space for detours. Outside, heat pressed like a challenge. He reached for her shoulder and froze mid-reach. I opened the car and tossed them bottled water. Hydrate now, tears later, maybe. The drive back ran without music or talk. An ambulance cut across 2 lanes and wailed. I kept a steady speed and stared dead ahead. Sirens always mean someone waited too long. At the house, I unlocked the door fast. 15 minutes to gather necessities, nothing sentimental. Bathroom, work, clothes, identification, that's it. A deadline sharpens even the softest will. She moved left, he moved right, I stayed central. I opened the Notes app and built 3 lists. Item by item, room by room, door by door. Structure is the only kindness I have left. My sister texted a single word from the driveway. Here, I opened the gate and waved her in. She stepped out and read the room in seconds. She hugged me once and let go hard. Where do you want me? Her boots already moving. Closets first, then bathroom, then kitchen. We divided the labor like a small unit. No tears, no speeches, only speed. He came down with a duffel and hovered. Storage unit or hotel, he asked, voice raw. Your choice, your bill, your consequences. He nodded and his cheeks burned. She stood at the foot of the stairs. I need a place for tonight, she whispered. You have friends or family who know. Her silence answered before she could. Then find a room and send the address. You will receive a courier envelope tomorrow. Inside will be terms and the rest. Each sentence closed a door behind us. Locks changed by sunset, mail forwarded by week's end. Numbers blocked after the morning appointment confirms direction. Therapy booked before I touch a single box. Every step carved a path out of this. We loaded 2 trunks and a back seat. He carried the last bag and kept his eyes low. She lingered by the porch rail and opened her mouth. I raised a hand and shut the moment down. Keys, I held out my palm and waited. They placed spares there like they were burning. I pointed at the street and kept the line. They walked to separate cars and did not look back. Engines turned over and faded around the corner. I stood in the doorway and counted to 20. My sister touched my shoulder and stayed quiet. We had tomorrow at 9 and a final verdict. I reached the clinic doors at 8:58. They stood apart like magnets flipped the wrong way. I held up my palm and watched them fall quiet. We walked in as a unit that no longer fit. Check in for follow-up, I kept my tone crisp. Results delivered in person, not by phone. The receptionist nodded and handed over forms. I signed fast and waited for the next gate to open. Her name appeared on the screen and she rose. He shifted forward, then stalled under my stare. Sit until you're called, my jaw did the talking. The door swallowed her and left us with static. He tried to speak and cleared his throat twice. Words hovered and then broke apart in the air. I stared at the wall clock and counted 6 ticks. I was ready for any outcome and its cost. A nurse returned with a clipboard and neutral eyes. Consent for shared discussion, then you can join. She held the pen and waited without blinking. We signed because this needed witnesses and records. The exam room was small and clinical on purpose. The physician entered with printouts and steady posture. She looked at each of us, then at the chart. Results are back and they are definitive. I braced for the impact that had a number. HCG is positive and rising since yesterday. Follow-up confirms early pregnancy consistent with recent conception. Her words landed in order and left no exits. She squeezed the paper until it crinkled. He gripped the armrest so hard his knuckles blanched. I breathed once deep and slow and rebuilt my spine. Next steps. Obstetrics referral today, the physician answered, calm and precise. Options counseling available, decision belongs to the patient. Paternity testing is not possible this early. She paused and waited for any sign of understanding. I nodded because facts don't need permission. Document everything and email me summaries. No calls, no relay, just written copies. The physician clicked her pen once and printed more pages. She reached toward me and then stopped mid-reach. Her eyes begged for softness I no longer carried. It wasn't supposed to be this, she whispered. I held the papers like a judge holding sentence. He leaned forward with a breath that shook. I will handle this, he managed, staring at the floor. I stepped back one pace to clear my head. You will handle all of it without me. The physician outlined immediate care and safety checks. No travel alone, no stressors that raise risk. A second appointment scheduled for tomorrow morning. She handed over times and made sure we heard. We walked out through automatic doors that didn't care. Parking lot heat pressed, but decisions pressed harder. I opened my phone and dialed the attorney's office. Emergency consult today, I said, and a slot appeared. He moved closer as if distance granted mercy. I lifted my hand and he stopped mid-stride. This conversation is logistics, not absolution. Do you understand the difference? His eyes filled and he nodded without lifting his head. Send me where to wire funds, he muttered. Hotel, doctors, whatever comes next. Do it before noon or you lose the choice. She approached with the referral sheet, trembling slightly. Will you come tomorrow, she asked, voice barely there. I stared at the date and the time and breathed. I will not stand beside you again. I typed a message to my sister with 3 words. Code changed, confirm, she replied, done before I blinked. Keypad replaced, remote access revoked. I exhaled through my teeth and felt the line harden. We reached the cars and nobody moved first. I held up the referral and looked them in the eye. You owe the clinic honesty and punctuality. You owe me silence until counsel is present. He opened his door, then paused and looked over. Are you cutting me off forever? His mouth barely formed it. I kept my voice level because anger wastes energy. For as long as I need to protect what's left. She folded the paper and stared at the horizon. Please don't turn into someone cruel, she whispered. I am becoming someone careful, I answered without heat. Careful people survive what reckless people create. They left in separate directions that would never meet. I stood still and waited for the shake that didn't come. My phone buzzed with a calendar invite from the attorney. 3 hours from now, retainer, strategy, and clean boundaries. I walked into the conference room and placed the retainer down. The attorney slid a pad toward me and clicked a pen. Non-contact order first, financial firewall second. We moved quickly because delay breeds chaos. I recited dates and times while she typed. No opinions, just facts that fit on paper. Courier delivers tonight, she confirmed, eyes on the draft. Service tomorrow morning if needed. She dialed a process server and put it on speaker. 2 addresses, 1 workplace if necessary, she instructed. I provided locations and access notes without a stumble. Consider them notified by noon, came the reply. We drafted a directive for the clinic. Share results to me directly, written only. No intermediaries, no summaries delivered through them. The letter went into the packet with signatures. Funds, she turned the screen and pointed at fields. I authorized a separate account with a hard cap. Medical costs covered, housing limited, anything beyond requires approval. Wire details printed with a timestamp and initials. Her assistant handed me a folder labeled with today. Inside sat letters, receipts, and a checklist. I took a photo of each page and archived. Proof travels faster than apologies. My phone vibrated with an unknown number. I let it ring out and then checked voicemail. His voice cracked mid-sentence and asked for a chance. I deleted it before I could weaken. Another ping, a text from the clinic portal. Second appointment confirmed for tomorrow at 9. I forwarded the notice to both of them. Attend on time, no excuses. On the sidewalk, my sister pulled up fast. Storage contract signed, she reported, handing me a keycard. Unit ready until month's end. I nodded and exhaled through my nose. We drove to the house and parked nose first. A locksmith van idled at the curb with doors open. Final check, the tech said, passing me the new fob. Every entry responded with a clean chirp. Inside, I packed documents while my sister boxed clothes. Each item entered a numbered bin that matched a list. No keepsakes, no shared mementos, only necessities. Sentiment can wait until I'm safe. A neighbor approached the gate and lifted a hand. You good? He asked, voice careful and slow. Handling it, I answered, then closed the latch. I would not feed the neighborhood rumor mill. An email landed from the attorney with instructions. Send them the wire link by 4, it read. Attach the behavior agreement as condition of support. I set an alarm and kept moving. 4 o'clock hit like an alarm bell. I sent 2 messages with the payment portal. Agreement attached, deadline clear, boundaries underlined. Screenshots saved to the case folder. Her reply arrived 3 minutes later with 1 sentence. I will comply and show up tomorrow. I marked it read and filed the thread. Clarity hurts less than pleading. His reply lagged and then landed with 5 words. I'll sign and cover my share. A second message asked for 10 minutes to talk. I typed no and muted the chat. The doorbell rang and my sister peeked outside. Process server stood ready with envelopes in hand. Serve at the curb, I instructed, watching through the pane. Smooth delivery ends arguments before they start. Papers exchanged, signatures captured, photos taken. Documentation stacked into the case like bricks. The server left with a nod and a timestamp. I locked the door and let my shoulders drop. I called a therapist and booked the earliest slot. Tomorrow noon after the appointment, I confirmed. Intake forms arrived by email within seconds. I filled them out without pausing. Dusk crept in and my phone buzzed again. Another unknown number tried twice and gave up. A new voicemail appeared and then transcribed. Please don't shut me out, I'm scared. I read the transcription and did not press play. I forwarded it to the folder marked evidence. Compassion lives here, but it reports to order. Order keeps me from drowning. My sister brewed tea and slid a cup over. We stood at the counter and didn't speak. The house felt lighter and louder at once. Emptiness has its own noise. A final email blinked into the inbox. The attorney uploaded tomorrow's plan with bullet points. Arrive early, leave separate. Lie, no parking near them. I memorized it like a map out. Night settled and the phone stayed face down. I walked room to room and checked each lock. Everything clicked in place with satisfying resistance. Tomorrow would cut deeper or finally close something. I parked across the street and watched them approach separately. 9 sharp on the clock and no late entrance. I stepped out, closed the door once and crossed. Inside now, I said, and they followed without drift. Reception recognized us and waved toward the back corridor. We passed through as a group with clear distance. A nurse opened a room and motioned us in. Clipboards waited like hurdles we still had to clear. The physician entered with 2 charts and a steady gaze. Follow-up confirms pregnancy, she stated with decisive cadence. Early but established, monitoring begins immediately. 4 words echoed after that sentence, no margin for doubt. She outlined care plans and scheduling windows. Bloodwork cadence, ultrasound timing, risk checks. Consent signatures required today, financials routed through me. Every item landed like a stamp I could not ignore. I will fund essentials under the agreement, I said. No contact outside written channels, calendar, invoices, updates. She nodded once and marked the chart with initials. Process gave me oxygen, feeling could wait. He rubbed his temples and stared at the floor. Do you want me involved at appointments? He asked. Her eyes flicked to me, then away fast. That choice is yours to manage without me. The physician handed over a card with dates. Follow this schedule unless complications appear, she instructed. Emergency protocol is on the back. I photographed both sides and stored them under today. We exited in a triangle that would never close. Parking lot heat hit hard and kept tempers short. Listen carefully, I said, stopping near the curb. This is the last time we stand together. A courier stepped up with envelopes and a tablet. Acknowledgements signed, copies distributed, timestamps captured. Inside, support limits, custody boundaries, residence rules. I watched them read until their shoulders sagged. He looked up with eyes already red. Is there any path back to us? Wind tugged at the documents and I held them steady. There is only forward, separate, sober, accountable. She tried one quiet step in my direction. My hand rose and froze her mid-stride. I wish you health, I said, voice even. Wishing is not returning. They returned to their cars and sat motionless. I waited until engines started and turned away. My phone vibrated with the therapist reminder. I headed there because healing needs structure and witnesses. Intake finished, the first session began without ceremony. I'm here to protect what remains, I opened. We worked through breaths and boundaries with measured pace. Clarity hurt, then steadied, then held. Halfway through, a text banner flashed across the screen. Clinic portal confirmed referral approvals and coverage activation. I forwarded the confirmation to both threads. All medical bills route through counsel, acknowledge receipt. Session ended, I walked out straighter than I entered. The sky didn't lighten, but my spine did. My sister waited by the curb with folded arms. House check next, she said, and I nodded. Back home, we finished boxing the final pieces. I labeled one bin for legal evidence only. Another for essentials this week and nothing else. Everything else could live in storage until judgment settled. A knock hit the door with sharp rhythm. Neighbor again, carrying a printout from his camera. Someone tried your gate at noon, he murmured. Timestamp matched the courier window and tightened my jaw. I forwarded the clip to the attorney and waited. Documented, no response required, she replied. Maintain distance and call if contact escalates. Boundaries are only real when enforced without flinch. Evening pulled in and the house settled around us. I opened my laptop and drafted 2 messages. One addressed to each of them with final terms. All communication through counsel violations end support. Before sending, I paused and counted a slow 4. Not to soften, but to ensure precision. I pressed send and watched the status switch delivered. Sometimes power is a quiet click that ends chaos. Her answer arrived first with a single line. Understood, no flourish, no plea, just compliance. His answer followed with 2 words and a period. Received, complying, the period mattered more than any promise. I walked to the front door and engaged the deadbolt. Every lock checked, every window latched, every alarm armed. Not paranoia, maintenance of a new perimeter. This is how you start over without breaking. I stood in the hall and touched the wall once. Not a goodbye, not a prayer, only contact. My phone stayed silent and stayed face down. Silence means the plan is working for now.